Beau Ballard in the house.
What it do?
Welcome back to Happi POD. We are here with my boy. Thanks for coming out, bro.
Yeah, dude. Wouldn't miss it. This is the farm, the homestead. I freaking love this place.
Yeah, dude. It's always nice. It's always nice seeing you out here. Dude, I'm excited to have you here and learn a little bit more about you and tell our story and kind of how things have evolved over the last, year and a half, 2 years?
Yeah, it's been 2 years, dude.
2 years?
2 years ripping.
Okay, so Beau is my, what are you?
Manufactured rep.
Manufactured rep from GAF.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, you contacted us, I guess, 2 years ago, yeah, and got us certified through GAF and have kind of given us insights on the industry and helped, do quite a bit of favors for us, actually, and helped out quite a bit. It's been super awesome having you as a rep. I think that's why we've, stuck with you for 2 years. We haven't even really looked around or done any research because we're just like, we're just getting taken care of so well here. So how did you get into the position that you're in now, and how does that all work, I guess?
Yeah, so funny enough, I had no idea about even roofing. I think most guys in the roofing industry don't even know it exists. So I was at Goldman Sachs in banking. I had a roommate. He did an internship, and we watched the Wolf of Wall Street. Mm-hmm. And he was like, dude, this is where we make money. And so kind of one of those things, went and jumped into it. And I was like 6 months there, and I was like, dude, this freaking sucks. And so anyways, had a mentor that kind of was like, hey, you got to think about looking into the trades. And I was like, the trades is like for people, who like do drugs. And, that's just kind of what the mentality is, They're like, oh, you do it if you can't make it anywhere else. It's either that or PE teacher. And so anyways, I started looking at it. My dad was a land developer, and so I didn't like the recession. And so I typed in Google, I was like, recession-proof, construction job. Mm-hmm. And roofing came up, and there was like a Reddit thread, and I started looking down, and I was like, what the heck? And, there's a variety of things. You can do new construction, you can do retail, you can do all these different things. And so anyways, there was an opening at GAF, and my mentor, he's like, you can either, you should start a company or, look into these positions because you can kind of get a feel for the market and what it is. Mm-hmm. So looked at GAF, didn't know really anything about what it was. I thought I was going to be like the guy for Sherman-Williams with like the paint and the commercials and go do demonstrations. I had no idea. But anyways, I started interviewing, and they were just like, yeah, like your whole job is to find these roofers that have all this talent and just help them, back them with whatever they need. So whether it's, hey, we want to do this and do a collab with a truck, or, we want some help and get in front of a consultant for marketing or whatever it is. Because through those partnerships, that's what, builds more business. And in the end, we sell more product. So it's kind of like Nike and Michael Jordan. If we can get Michael Jordan to be bigger, better, faster, stronger, Nike's just going to build its own brand. So did that, and that's, actually kind of how I met you. So I'm always on the lookout for, hey, who's the next big roofer? And that's one of the cool things about, roofing is there's not like the Walmart of roofing. If you were to go into any neighborhood, they're not like, oh yeah, just call 1-800 da-da-da-da-da, there's not that guy. And so I was driving around, and I started asking distribution. I started seeing Happi yard signs everywhere. It was like one day, it was overnight, I felt like I'd been in a couple of years, and I was like, I got a pretty good gauge on the market. And then overnight I was like, dude, there's like 700 Happi yard signs. And I've never heard of these roofers. And then I started asking other roofers. I was like, who are you running into out there, And they're like, Happi. This Happi guy stole my job. Happi guy came and did this,
Ethan.
Yeah. And so all this thing, all this noise. And so, but nobody knew where you were because, you were buying from one of our independent distributors. Mm. And so it wasn't as like your name just wasn't as available. Nobody had any information about where you came from, where you were, how to even meet you. And so, yeah, I reached out and got lucky enough one day. And then I went out, and you were fishing in your backyard. Catching at that other house you were catching. I was like, who is this guy? It was unlike any other meeting I've ever been to. Because usually, you set up, it's we'll go meet at, Cubby's, and we'll talk about business. And this dude was in cowboy boots without a shirt on. and fishing. I'm like, this is the mother effer who stole all these jobs from these big, huge multi-million-dollar roofing companies.
This is ridiculous, bro. This is your perspective. It's wild.
Yeah, so it was the coolest thing. It was unlike anything I'd ever met or whatever, but it was fun to put a face to a name, and that's just 100% who Happi Roofing is.
Wow. I couldn't have said it better myself, dude. That kind of hits it right on the head, honestly. That sums up our brand. I feel like we've continuously just carried that essence of like, all we do is just sell a lot of deals and do good work and live a pretty chill,
Oh, 100%.
country boy type of life and have fun. But dude, that's super awesome. Yeah. I feel like the yard signs are underrated strategy. You do end up wasting a lot of money. Someone blow away the next day, but people remember them, man. It's like, you're not the first one to tell me what's all these yard signs,
Yeah.
People recognize the yard signs. That's why I have 3 massive yard signs.
Oh, yeah,
in
huge.
my house. So everybody in Tooele or this whole area, basically, if we're like, yeah, you've probably seen the Happi house with all the signs. They're like, oh yeah, we've seen that. I know where you guys live. Instant credibility. People know that we're actually out here and we're going to be available to help them if we need them.
Well, and you guys are the local guys, the marketing guys always say it takes like 3 times of seeing something before you even take it into considerations. So, I mean, all these future customers in this whole valley have just been primed that, they've seen Happi in all these places they've never seen. By the time somebody knocks on the door, they're like, oh, I don't know where I know that from, but I know that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the idea, That was the idea. It's come out here and build a brand, something that was going to be long lasting, something that people could rely on, and something that was be here for a very, very long time. So
100%.
That's why we bought this spot and why we're here. But yeah, dude, you've been a huge help over these last couple of years. We've had some pretty aggressive growth, and it hasn't been easy to kind of navigate. You've been on that board, I would say, board of advisors. Like when I have a question about what should I do, what should I use, where should I go, different things that we run into. You're definitely one of those guys that I'm like, let's see what Beau thinks about this. Let's see if he knows someone. Let's see if he's got someone in his back pocket, or if he can help us with this, And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are the silent killers. It's the same thing for me. As soon as I find out, I hear about a storm or, oh, there's a hailstorm or windstorm this area, it's like Happi's SEAL Team 6. It's like you send those guys out there and they'll just wipe the surface,
That's the idea.
Where, for me, it's kind of a team effort because it's me against my competition, other manufacturers. And it's like when you have guys on the Happi team, it's like you just go in, you sweep house, and you make a lot of deals. It's pretty impressive.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that's what we try and do. We really do try and keep that mentality. It's funny you say that, the SEAL Team 6, because that's what we want. We just want like really high level people who are driven. That's what's fun to be around. That's what makes life exciting, being around ambitious people like
100%.
yourself.
Yeah. No, there's such a great synergy here. It's been so impressive to see, from back, fishing with your shirt off and who are these guys? But I think that's the whole mentality is like, hey, we work hard, play hard. And that's been the coolest part of, seeing you guys and do that is, hey, we signed, 50 deals this week. The next week you're in Japan, hunting polar bear. I don't know what the freak you guys are doing, but, it's like that one video where they're surfing and, riding motorcycles, doing all these things. But at the same time, you're working just as hard on the doors, and it's pretty impressive.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude. It's been a wild journey. It's kind of fun seeing it all starting to come together. We're really starting to carry some momentum. I think the key now is just keep it rolling, not get too ahead of ourselves,
Yeah.
Grab some water.
Yeah, no, do your thing. So what do you think? I mean, for Happi Roofing, what's 10 years look like?
Bro, I was just about to ask you about the future for you. So I'll go first and then I want to hear yours. 10 years. Holy cow, dude. 10 years is such a long, long time. I would say this year we'll probably grow like 70 to 80%. As compared to what we did last year. And then I think we're going to probably cool it off, maybe, to growing at like 20 to 40% a year, just like
Jeez.
for as far as we can see. Just basically set it at a nice maintainable growth rate where we're reinvesting in different markets and, you know, staying conservative with how we're running the finances, and just set it at a nice, easy, long-term, you know, type of growth rate and growth strategy, instead of, okay, we're going to keep trying to double every single year. It's like we're getting to the point now where it really is like, okay, we got a lot of people that we care about, that we, you know, a lot of people living a good life. There's no reason to try and just like max risk. You know, now it's like, okay, something a little more sustainable and just be nice and smooth.
Yeah.
Keep it smooth. You know, that's what we're trying to do over the next 10 years. If we can just keep it smooth and keep growing at pretty good rates, then I think that'll be, you know, awesome for me to be able to expand the opportunity for everybody else. Because if we're growing, that means my managers are leading more people, getting compensated more, bonuses are bigger, all the numbers are bigger, you know? So that's what we want, is just growth and expansion and to stay alive for a very, very long time.
When you guys have, it's just been pure grit, you know, going out, like every lead you guys have gotten has pretty much been off the sweat of your backs, where this, you know, I always say year 3 is when referrals just start coming in.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they're at the family dinner table, and that's when they're like, oh, I need to get my roof done. And then people are like, oh, we went with Happi and we were pretty happy, you know?
Yeah.
And it just keeps like compounding that. It's like, if any company, if they can do as much volume of use as you guys have done, by year 3, it's like they start getting these organic referrals where it's like, oh yeah, here, do this, or, oh, you know, you'll get random calls like, do you guys do siding? Or, you know, there's so many different verticals that you guys can expand on.
Yeah, 100%. We definitely get a pretty decent amount, I would say, in this area. We're starting to get more over in the Magna side, but yeah, over where we're at, we're starting to feel that for sure, and kind of have been for a little while. But yeah, dude, I want to hear about you, man. What's in store for you? What have you got lined up for the future?
Yeah, a lot of things. It's been pretty fun. My wife's she's just finishing up her last semester of law school, so we're pretty excited about that. She's doing some mergers and acquisitions at Kirkland and Ellis, and so that's kind of the last 3 years have just kind of been single dad mode, and you know, she's been grinding, working out her dreams, and so I think for me, I've loved the people within the trades have honestly been my favorite type of people. You know, I've done other things, you know, with investment banking or whatever like that, and it's just not the same type of people. You don't have meetings like this, you know, when you're working at a bank, or I can't imagine that, like, you know, people in tech are sitting down and being like, you know, they don't meet. There's not people like Dallas. Or, you know, I got kicked out of a Black Bear diner because the dude was, you know, just dropping F-bombs all the time. And it's just things like that it's real, you know. I feel like those are my people
Stories.
and stuff. Yeah, there's just things like that. And so obviously, you know, looked at several different opportunities. I think the more and more with the expansion of like AI and stuff like that, that there's going to be several industries that are taking over, but construction, you know, you can't replicate building a roof with AI. You know, there's tools that will help make it easier, but it's not going to be a job like somebody that's sitting at a desk where you can be like, hey, this, you know, computer can do it better. Or even, you know, for me, like I've been working on nutrition, and, you know, you can ask AI, hey, I want to be at 2,500 calories. This is my weight. This is my goal. How many calories? What should I be at? What my meal plan look like? Where roofing, you can't do that. You know, you can't ask ChatGPT, hey, I need a new roof. Can you help me with an insurance claim? Can you help me with financing? Can you help do this? And so there's things that are definitely going to make it easier. And so trying to stay as educated as I can as far as the construction. Want to keep growing. I feel like with the roofers and stuff, I have a lot of great connections, but you know, there's a lot of just big builders out here, you know, Ivory Homes, Edge, you know, a lot of big builders that are just growing. And Utah, you know, we're in this perfect spot because we have the Olympics coming. There's a ton of money being dumped into the infrastructure of Utah that it's, I just am trying to stay in front of it and be as prevalent as I can, you know, to be a resource and, you know, really help build the state up and, you know, do a lot of the infrastructure on roofs that, you know, nobody really thinks about roofs is, you know, oh, wow, with the Olympics coming, where all I see is like, dude, that's so many squares a roofing product that's going to be dumped into this, state because
Yeah.
just to support the infrastructure that's coming. So
Mhm.
really, I just want to, get more knowledgeable, be better at what I'm doing, and ultimately help, guys like Dallas, other companies, and help them grow to what they want to be.
I love it, dude.
Mhm.
That's incredible. So how long have you been with GAF?
5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 years. It's been a long time. It kind of was something that I thought. I was like, oh, I'll just do this to burn time or see, what I want to do or start up my own thing. But
Yeah.
it's the best job as far as they don't keep tabs on me. I don't have, a manager like, oh, what'd you do?
Seems like you live a pretty loose lifestyle,
Yeah.
bro. I'll be honest.
Yeah. So as long as, you're meeting contractors are growing, and that's what's super fortunate for me in my job is I've attached my horse to guys like you and, other companies that are just growing so fast that, as far as customers go, it's like I'd rather, I need to focus more time on Happi and helping them get, their 80% growth as opposed to getting 80% more contractors. Because there's always going to be those guys that do, are starting on the block and you can help, but it's like they've already got a system, they've got all this thing. And so your guys' growth, you're right at that hockey stick, where you're going to keep exploding because all the things, the kinks, I don't know if you remember, but placing your first order and, going through and all the just, oh, we didn't look at the drip edge color or whatever it was.
Oh my gosh.
All the
dude.
things that could fill your day. You're like, we've already figured that out, the questions to ask. And now it's just adding people to the schedule.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Dialing in the team. There's always more systems to dial in. There's always more things to learn. There's always just little details and nooks and crannies that you can just tune up. And it's just like, it's just crafting something, man. I love doing business. It's just, there's always something to adjust. There's always something that you can see that you can maybe train someone on that will avoid a problem later on down the pipeline.
Oh, 100%.
And yeah, it's fun.
Well, not only that, but I mean, so many of your employees have been here since I first met you. There's so many other roofing companies that, you come in for one sales training. The next year you come in and it's like, or the next month you go in and it's like,
Yeah.
these are all new guys. Where it's, the guys, and it just speaks to the culture and what you guys are doing that, you're able to share a vision with other people that see something more than, oh, I'll just work this for a summer and,
Yeah.
start my own thing or do whatever,
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's definitely been a puzzle that I've been working on more so recently is like really retaining guys and building with them long term, and like, what do I need to do? Who do I need to be in order to like make sure that that's happening with the good guys that get put in front of me? Because I've definitely had times where I've had good people in front of me and I've just blown it, as a leader. And, it's definitely taken practice and repetition to try and figure out, just the complicated equation of being a leader and, managing and working with people and, running an operation. But, I think it's just like anything else. If you analyze it, you look at what you need to improve and where you went wrong and what worked and what's working and what's going well, then, you can keep going, keep trying. And luckily we've had, guys who have been here now multiple years. And yeah, it's been awesome to build those relationships and see people's lives really change and evolve, Like I was just talking about this the other day. Like, yeah, I mean, me and Maddie, we're going to France on Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
We're going to be in France for 9 days, skiing and flying in the Alps. And, it's pretty awesome. We just get to do trips and spend time with the people we love and, not put ourselves in a position where we're overworked or trying to be egotistical about what we benchmarks that we need to hit, but keeping it again at that pace that's maintainable, that has, more of that marathon mindset. Enjoy the process. It's not a sprint. Take some time to reflect, and I feel like that helps me big time with creativity. Getting in different environments.
Yeah.
I know you like to travel.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah, there's so many. I mean, after I read, have you read the 4 Hour Work Week?
No, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole thing that, we kind of were told a lie growing up in high school and college and all this stuff. That's like, oh, you work 80 hours and then you're going to have this lifestyle after. Where, I'm looking at everyone in the banking world or whatever, and I'm like, dude, nobody has this. Everyone's getting divorced. No one's happy. These dudes are not seeing their family. They're bragging about, oh, I worked 18 hours today or 16 hours, and so I get my meal paid for. Where it's like, dude, that's not a flex. That's embarrassing.
Slavery.
Yeah, exactly. That's slavery. And so, just you're exactly right. It's creating an opportunity where you can go and, see new cultures. I just finished reading the book Sapiens. I don't know if you've read it, but it just talks about how, culture and stuff. But one of the things that just like has stuck in my head is they asked a bunch of these scientists is, what do you think what the work-life balance is for a hunter-gatherer? And they're like, how many hours do you think they're working a week? And everyone's like, oh, probably like 60, 80, whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, it was 30. And I'm like, dude, these people were just living in the mountains, eating mushrooms and, raspberries and all this stuff. And they were working way less than, 90% of people here.
100%.
Where it's like, and that was the question is, it's like, how come we've gotten so much more tech? It used to take you 6 hours or whatever to wash your clothes, hang them up and dry them. And we have a machine that can do it in an hour, but how come our lives are just, we're busy? And that's, for me, it was a good thing because it's like, am I doing the things that I need to be doing? Am I like, texting the people or whatever? You used to send out mail once a month. And that was like, oh, I'll hear from, Dallas in a month when he sends me a letter back. Where now it's like I get 200 messages a day. And it's like, am I any less busy with all this tech and stuff? And so really just dialing in and taking time to travel. You went to Egypt and freaking did all this sick stuff.
Yeah, dude. It's funny that you say that because as far as the work-life balance and not getting overrun in the short term, it's like, think about the difference between a 30 and a 40. A 40, you go and you work and you grind for your check and you push yourself all the way to that point where you don't want to do anything else. You don't want to, work on an independent project or work on relationships or networking or studying something new versus you're on a 30, and then you take the last 25% of those working hours and you put them all towards a long-term play. Something that's like networking, educational, taking a program, learning a skill, going through like, a coaching program or men's networking group or something like that. Traveling where you're actually like meeting people, you have all those opportunities where if you don't quite have the energy or time or capacity to go out and meet new people and have new exciting experiences and, have time to actually dedicate, sit down and spend on something that excites you, then how are you gonna find your own unique path in the first place, Yeah. If you don't have personal time, personal spent energy.
Well, and going on that, I think, you've done phenomenally. There's been several, we were even just talking about a guy who's a spearfisher that I followed and I was like, oh, hear this guy. But, a lot of times we think of poverty as just like the money in your bank account, where I learned this new term and it's social poverty. And those are, poverty from the relationships and the networks and the opportunities where, how many times do we look at our bank account and be like, oh, I'm super broke or whatever, or I have this, instead of thinking like, what about the relationships and the doors that are unlocked? Just meeting you and, hey, we're buying goats, we're doing all these things, peacocks, all this stuff. And, that to me is like,
goats.
That's the wealthiest you can get is the relationships. And that for me is what, brings me the most happiness. But there's been so many times like trying to chase the carrot where it's like, dude, I'm socially in poverty. I don't have those relationships. I'm not making those experiences and, meeting the people that are going to open my next door or whatever it is. And that especially like with COVID. COVID, there were so many people. There was one time like I just talked during the week because I was working on a computer and I was like, I hadn't even talked. Like it was like I was like, I don't even know what my voice sounds like, because you're just like, I was doing this thing that I'm like, dude, this doesn't make sense. I'm not happy. I'm not making that good of money. Like, and the thing that I craved was just relationships and experiences, and meeting people and their experiences and perspective on life. Like that's one of the wealthiest things you can do.
Yeah, dude, I agree. Yeah, that brings a lot of richness to life, doesn't it? Learning about people's stories and like man, some people have gone through the craziest, most like unique stuff that you can't even like fathom.
Oh, no.
You know.
No.
Speaking of something crazy, to kind of shift gears into more of a current events, bro, what do you think about the U.S. going in and swiping up Maduro?
Yeah, dude. That's, it's funny. So me and my wife were actually politically on like opposite spectrums.
Really?
Yeah. And so we were talking about this, and it's always kind of interesting. And at first, when we first got married, actually our first date, we were at Cubby's, doing the traditional Utah date.
Mm-hmm.
And she was studying sociology, and I was like, I had no idea what that was, but I remember looking up, and I was like, are you a liberal?
Mm-hmm.
Her dad's a nuclear scientist. She's from Idaho, and I was just like, I was so put back by like, what the heck?
Yeah.
This doesn't fit any of the boxes that I, would have thought of.
Right.
But yeah, we were talking about it last night, and it's just crazy. And I mean, number one for me, I don't know what's real or not anymore. There's so much information. It's like, there's a war going on in Ukraine and Russia. There's all these different events where like you could go down any Reddit thread right now and there's just all this information out there. And Venezuela, which is crazy. I mean, a lot of roofers around here are actually Venezuelan. There's quite a few Venezuelan, and they're very, educated people. There's 3 guys that I can think of specifically. One, he had a drop shipping business for auto parts in Venezuela that he abandoned because his family was just getting basically terrorized. The other one was an engineer, like very prestigious.
Wait, when was that? When were they getting terrorized?
So they came to Utah for asylum, basically from Venezuela, is because they were going out there. There's
the cartel.
The cartel, all these different things, and one of them, the way he explained it, he's like, dude, there's no laws, like there's nothing to stop anyone from doing anything. So he's like, my shop, for example, he's like, I had thousands of dollars of auto parts at any given time, where I would go and, it would get stolen, make a police report or something like that, and they just would kind of shrug their shoulders. And so he's like, you can't like operate if there's no structure or enforcement or like anything going on. And so he's like, we stuck asylum and, ended up here in Utah. And now he's a roofer. He's very dedicated mindset, but same thing with an engineer. Hey, I was doing this, my family, his sister died from the cartel, and he was just like, I just didn't even want to think about it, and so just up and left.
Dang.
But it's so crazy, I don't know. I don't understand all the details.
How wild the world gets, like how wild it kind of always is, but like how separated people can be from it. And it's crazy because I guess this is the first time, I mean it is, recently, the first time in human history where we're able to like quickly know and absorb what's going on throughout the whole world. So we're kind of like aware of all the major problems globally, like quickly. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's a lot to digest, but in a way, I feel like it has its pros to at least know what's going on and be aware of what can happen and what caused that, which I don't really know what caused that, mm-hmm. other than, letting corruption get out of hand to the point where it's just literally criminals running the government, you know?
100%.
I feel like in a way we're not far off from that, but.
Oh, 100%. I one of the, the luckiest things I got to do was live in Brazil, and, it just really opened my mind just to how different, it is. And there's actually a lot of Venezuelan refugees and stuff that, it's like these guys are worried about their families dying and all this stuff. And, I'm worried about, oh, geez, am I going to make it in time to go to SWIG or whatever, just random things that don't. But, there's still a lot of stuff like that where, a lot of corruption and, there everyone hates the government, but like they're still in power. And it's really just an interesting question to me is like, I've heard so many people, a lot of Venezuelans that I've spoken to outside of Venezuela, they hate it. They're like, everyone knows it's corrupt and all this stuff, but it's like, what is giving them this power? Like, they still have this power over people, mm-hmm. even though it's kind of like we're all, and maybe even in today's world, our government, it's supposed to be the power to the people, but we look at it and it's like, how are they power if a lot of us, are we making these decisions,
Well, I feel like the real power is whoever controls the money supply.
Oh, 100%.
Because then that's what everybody's working for. So that's what everybody's spending time on. So if you can just inflate it and make your own, then everybody's basically working for what you can create from thin air. So everybody's basically a slave.
Yeah.
And then you have power. So it's like, now the actual steps to get there of like political negotiating and like getting in and working deals and slowly just erodes over time. Like, I don't really know what that looks like, but I definitely feel like whoever's in control of the money supply gets to determine, what really ultimately happens. That's what's crazy about our government. And, as you probably know, I'm a big advocate for Bitcoin.
Yes, sir.
Which, that can't happen with, so, but yeah, I mean, even our own government is doing that to us and just pulling money from thin air. And that's how really everything gets paid for, not even really from taxes. Our taxes are just for the fraud. That pays for all the fraud, but everything else is just paid for.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting to think of. It talked about that in the Sapiens book as well, is one of the first traceable forms of currency was seashells. But it talked about how did that even start? Imagine you're a cow farmer and somebody comes to you and says like, oh, there's these seashells.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you a handful of them for your cow. Like for, these old, the first species, that had to be the most mind-blowing thing. Like that. But, part of why they were able to do it, like the Roman Empire, is because it's greed. They know that every human is just greedy and that we all want this money. And so like a lot of times, like Bitcoin, it's backed because we all know that people want this wealth, wealth that is there, and, which ultimately gives it its value. Because really, if you think about the dollar, a seashell, in Brazil, we had the real, like it's a piece of paper, like there's nothing there. And it's like, how do people slave? Or, they'll lay concrete for backbreaking work for a piece of paper. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So it's to preserve the value that they create to then transfer to whatever else. So that way we can have specialists in the economy. Otherwise, if we're trading, everybody's too broad, right? But if we can just go for a straight trade into a storage unit, but if that storage unit erodes over time, then you end up having to work to build it up so much more. You have to we shouldn't really have to manage properties and make all these investments, and you actually have to make sure you're getting a return, or else your money's just going away. Whereas back when we were backed by gold, again, you can't just pull that from thin air. You got to actually work to get it. So it worked as a better storage unit for storing people's value that they're creating in the economy. And yeah, I don't know why I went off on this tangent. But
I love it, dude.
Yeah, I feel like that's what happens with, I feel like, most failed governments is they just print money, and that's what causes the biggest issues throughout human history. And why, like you said, the Romans, that's why they failed, isn't it? Right? Inflation eventually just printed so much, made so many, diluted whatever they're making their coins with, just making more until the value of what people were working for was a lot less.
Yeah. When you even see it, what the dollar compared to other foreign entities, and that's, if we look at world powers and stuff like this, where is America at? Great Britain used to be the biggest superpower ever, where now we look at it, they're not, and with the population growth in India and several of these other places, where is America gonna be? Right now, and we all have this nationalist mindset of America's the best and stuff, but with the technology, the infrastructure, the manufacturing capacity that China has, the growth of just pure human population in India, is the U.S. just gonna kind of be another Great Britain and, I don't know, make freaking beans and toast for breakfast one day, or we gonna
maybe
change?
But I think one thing that sets America apart other than Great Britain is the size and the scope of resources, natural resources. I think because of the size and scope of our natural resources and our population, our GDP, our innovation, our tech, we're still at at a good spot. I think if we can keep tensions low. I don't know. You know, I think Trump's pretty good about fixing stuff quick.
Yeah.
But we'll see if that is sustainable. I think our biggest issue is potential war, you know, more than, I don't know. You're the economy professional.
No, I don't know either. I am super grateful just, having been able to work for a manufacturer, just that we're bringing, manufacturing back to the United States. I think for so long, we were just shipping everything away, and in a way they were just kind of subcontracting everything out. iPhone has this product, they invent it, and then they just sub out the actual whole product of it, where I think the US and like what made us so strong in the Industrial Revolution is we got to make product on US soil, and product that's
a
good
really
enough
good point.
that, ships out to other countries and stuff like that. There's a lot of time. I'm a big Toyota guy. You drive a Toyota, and it's like, dude, like everyone knows Toyotas are super reliable, and there's Ford guys or whatever that say it's Ford, but it's like we got to make a car. Like the U.S. had to ban the Toyota Hilux, because it was so dominant here. It's like we gotta start making our own products. Like in China, they won't even let a lot of our stuff, like Facebook and stuff like that. But we use TikTok every day, and so they're just data mining, doing all this stuff. And hopefully, we can start producing and innovating and creating a free market for innovators just to keep building brands, businesses, and manufacturing, so the U.S. can kind of stay where it's at.
Yeah. It's kind of fun to watch the global stage and see everything shift. But it's also fun to zoom back in and be like, what can I actually do? And then it's like you start going deeper and deeper on like, what can I really do? What's really going to make the biggest difference? Like my own personal life. And then from there, it's like, if you do go deep into what's going to make the biggest difference in the personal life, and you go deep on yourself, you will actually make a difference completely passively. I was just talking to one of my sales managers about this. He's like, I want to build other people, and like, he has a tendency to self-sacrifice a little bit for the team, and it's like, bro, you build yourself up and get so much experience and get so much resources and inspire so many people to the point where you're building teams and have so much experience in a leadership role. You're going to be able to impact so many more people, so much more effortlessly than if you are to, stop selling to go knock with a new rep. Burn 2 days. Maybe they stay, maybe they don't. You self-gen one that week. You go run around for another rep, and you just kind of like run around trying to take care of everybody that you forget to take care of yourself. And then you lose all that long-term leverage and that compounding effect that comes with pouring into yourself and taking care of yourself and making sure your house is in order, right? Because I do see people, man, on Facebook, like, oh, man, sometimes I get riled up when I'm like, I don't know I get it. We should all vote and have a voice and communicate as a community, but I still am a firm believer that it's going to make more of an impact to go inwardly and make sure you are well taken care of. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
Does that make sense?
Oh, like, dude, I can't tell you, like, starting this job, I gained 100 pounds, and I try to do that. I was stressed. I was learning all these new things I was doing, trying to just make a lot of other people happy. But, in the meantime, I gained 100 pounds, where it's like, I didn't realize, physically that was probably the worst thing that could have happened to me, but like mentally and not taking care of what I needed to do, like it was the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. And there were so many things that like I gave up the energy, the extra energy I could have had to be with my wife and with my daughter and play with them. And, just so many things like that where it's so easy to do. Or as a business owner, there's so many times that I see this guy. I've seen guys that, they run multi-million-dollar companies, and I see them driving trailers. And it's like, not to say that that's a bad thing, but you can get somebody to do that for, $20 an hour.
Yeah.
And if you think that you're worth $20 an hour, you just capped yourself on the ability to grow. Or, if you think, if your nutrition's not in balance and stuff like this, you start bottlenecking in all these different things that you had no idea you were even bottlenecking on.
Yeah. And as far as hiring, out those roles, I even look at it as a sense of like, if I have the slightest resistance towards doing something, maybe that's a little exact. If there's like a decent amount of resistance, you know, we all have to have those things where it's like maybe not the most convenient, but we just got to do it, right? But if it starts to get to that point where it's like, this really doesn't feel like something I should do, it feels like I'm keeping it from someone who would take a lot of pride in doing that and who really wants that and who sees that as an opportunity.
Yeah.
So then I start to feel like I'm harboring this task that somebody could do better than me, somebody who wants to do it, right? And so then it's like, that's how you really expand, is giving away those things that don't resonate with you and giving them to someone who they do resonate with. There might be some guy out there who takes a 20, 25 hour trailer driving job and he's really stoked about it.
Yeah, he
you know
loves
what I mean? He's like, this is sick. This is what I wanted. This is giving me the experience I need. This is putting me right where I want to be, you know, and then that extra capacity from the owner, like you said, could be spent somewhere else in the business.
Well, and even, you know, one of the things that I love that you do, if we look at GDP of like the United States, like women really haven't been in the workforce for that long. And one of the things I've noticed you do at Happi Roofing is there's been several women. Like in a lot of the other companies that I go see, it's like a male dominated industry. You know, and so we see all these things where it's like roofing companies have just, you know, and girls have different perspectives, different strengths. Every human has a different strength and stuff. But like utilizing people that haven't been in the industry and letting them do things, you know, one of the number one things that like roofers struggle with is communication and organization. They suck at it, you know. Well, what miraculously is one of the great things that girls are great at? Communication and organization, you know?
Yeah.
And so 100%. You put those things in there and it's like, dude, now you created this like superpower of someone that's stoked. I've gone into other offices and I've seen, you know, this guy, he was super unorganized and stuff. And he had this lady that was just loving, just building out their CRM and was like, this is so much fun because now you go this place. And she was showing me, like, she was just stoked about this. And I was like, I would rather do anything but this. You know, but she was stoked on it, and you're right. It created an opportunity and allowed someone to kind of show their superpower.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think having the male female dynamic it's good for the workplace. You know, it's good for people that have that creativity and like as far as the customer experience. Like Maddie was just talking about this the other day. She's like, she loves having girls in the office when like customer calls in and it's just like a bubbly girl answering the phone, and it's like helping them take care of their project, knows everything that they need. And
well, nobody, like, let's be real, nobody when there's like water dripping in or whatever, nobody wants to get on the phone and talk to a dude.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what's up, dude? You know, with the raspy voice, like, I'll get to it. But like when somebody's nice, like, it makes everyone's day a little bit better.
It's a girl who really cares and she's like deeply feels it and she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Let's get somebody out there for you right away. Let me see who's available. Where are you at? What's your address? Like, let's get someone out there right away, you know? And so I think girls have a special place on the team, you know, and it's always fun to see who's willing to get out there and get after it. And like, we've had some good hires, some good female hires for sure. Great. On both the sales project management side and the administrative office side, you know? And so,
well, that's the thing. I mean, girls the girls' number statistically shows they do better than guys.
Yeah.
You know, if you think of somebody on your doorstep, if it's a girl that's, you know, presentable and very well educated, like, I'll listen to them.
Yeah, it's not intimidating. You know, the older grandma might see a guy and.
Yeah. And we we learn all the sales
not want to go outside.
Stand 6 feet back and do whatever. But it's like, dude, there's just some people that.
Bro, you want to know how far I stand back? This is like some actual. This is like one of my secrets. I'll give it away though, because if people are watching this,
dude, they gotta like and subscribe.
If people are watching this, I feel like they deserve it. But you stand like 30 or 40 feet back. You stand out in the street, out in the sidewalk, because every rep stands close, but contractors, line guys, you know, everyone else like that who's working with actual utilities and general construction projects, they're going to be out in the road. They're going to be on the sidewalk. They're going to be giving them way more space. And I really started doing that during COVID.
Yeah.
And then I've just carried it over, and I've just realized that like less pressure on the door draws people out more. And so, and builds more curiosity. So my guys are training 30 or 40 feet back.
Yeah.
It's freaking, I feel like it's a good little hack.
Well, it's a gold mine. And then they can't talk to you on the ring camera.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll just stand there. They can't hear you. They'll have to come out. And what is it? Like the closing percentage goes up 30% if you can get them to step 1 foot outside of the door.
Yeah. And then plus, if they don't come to the door, you're just that much closer to the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
You're literally already that much closer. So,
yeah.
I could nerd out on door-to-door sales, bro. Like, it's such a weird niche to get into and to have spent so much time in. You know what I mean? Like, I literally just went out and knocked 2 days ago with Matt. Have you met Matt?
Yeah, I did.
You met Matt? Where'd you meet Matt?
Top Golf.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Matt and Lauren was there too.
They're awesome. Such great, positive people.
Yeah, dude, he's awesome. I'm really excited to build with him this next year. He's been awesome addition to the team.
Huge.
But cool, man. Well, anything else you want to? Any other insight you want to drop on us before we close this up?
No, dude, just such a science. I mean, the best part about I love about roofing and kind of what Happi's done is just it's grit. There was nothing special about you guys. A lot of times you look at the success and stuff that you've seen, but you guys have one nose, two eyes, and there's nothing stopping another human being from what you guys have done other than you wanted it better. And so I love the phrase any given Sunday, because it's like you got to fight your demons, get out on the doors, do all those things that 99% of everyone else just wasn't willing to do.
Yeah, dude. Thank you for seeing that. Thank you for recognizing that, dude. I don't know what I did to deserve so much so much of this energy, but I appreciate it so much, dude. Like, yeah, thank you. Wow. That really it's so true. Like, we really did so much crazy stuff to get here. It's so wild. And I know we still have so much to build, and we have a long ways to go. And it's crazy sitting down and doing this podcast with you. I'm like seeing things in the future, like different plays and potential outcomes with this relationship that I 100%. Didn't previously see prior. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh wow, I got to learn more about like your depth and who you are, and things like that. It just builds up the vision for the future. But yeah, to get to where we are here, it was crazy, bro. It was seriously so crazy, so bootstrapped. It still is. Like, we're still just chugging along. Like, we got a sales meeting. We had a sales meeting just a few hours ago. Like, we're pushing guys out. It's mid-January. Or no, not even mid-January, early January.
Yeah, I mean, dude, New Year's Eve was 3 days ago.
We sold 8 deals last week, and we're embarrassed about it. It's a slow week, but we're on track to, do those percentages, just coming out of the gate. Wow. We're gonna hit big growth numbers for January, February, and then as everybody kind of gets assembled and we get all of our other recruits in, this year should just be freaking lights out, bro. So,
well, it's crazy. I mean, imagine this year from last year. Last year, I remember sitting on your porch, looking at the mountains. You just got in the crib or whatever, and you're like, "Oh, dude, I gotta get motivated." All this stuff. Where now you're already just like, "Dude, blood's in the water, dude." I'm building up a pipeline. So
it's so funny.
Hopefully next Thanksgiving or first snowstorm next year, you're gonna be on a different side of the world.
Yeah, bro. I was just it's funny, all these like reoccurring things that keep popping back up that you bring up. I gotta get motivated because, yeah, dude, 2024, bro. That was 2024. I think was that my year of just like, I don't know. You hit certain benchmarks that you've held for a long time as kind of the end goal, and then you're just like, you get there, and it's then you just it's no fun to just sit there and bask in it. You got to reset. Make bigger goals and go after bigger challenges to stay satisfied and, fulfilled, as far as feeling like, at least for me, feeling like I'm bringing value to the world. And yeah, it's definitely a lot more fulfilling now compared to those chapters back then when we were hanging out on the porch. And I was like, Yeah, I should probably like actually rally this thing and make it what it's supposed to be rather than just like chill around. You know, there's people out there more than just me that want to have, you know, a good freaking fruitful, abundant life.
Oh,
You know?
100%.
So
Well, you could, and dude, I see it all the time. There's guys that, you know, they hit that benchmark and, you know, they make 200K a year and they're like, wow, that's it for me. I'm done. I'm good.
yeah,
Where you had this thing in your mind, which, you know, you could see it in your eyes from that day that it's like, there was bigger. We were looking at the mountains and it's like bigger.
yeah,
Like, these mountains are cool. This vision's cool. This is something I imagined. I wanted, you know,
yeah,
but I can do it bigger.
yeah,
You know, which only you could have done. I mean, you did exactly what you said. You pulled on your bootstraps and I'm
yeah.
gonna build this, create jobs, help homeowners, and have fun.
Yeah. It's crazy. As you're saying that, I'm thinking about like, man, how did that happen? Like, what was the actual steps? And I feel like it's always kind of in stride with taking on an amount of responsibility that's a little bit scary.
Mm-hmm.
That you kind of, you're pretty dang sure you can rise to the occasion and get it done,
Mm-hmm.
but it gets your heart going a little bit.
Oh,
It's not
100%.
a boring amount of work. It's not a boring puzzle to solve, you know? And so it's like hiring people has been a huge leverage for productivity for me, right? Actually like putting people on salary or hourly and being like, I'm going to give you work and your bills are going to be paid because I'm going to give you money every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
you know? And we're going to do that for years, you know, years and years and years. It's like, okay, now I have somebody that's, you know, that I'm paying thousands of dollars a month. I got to make sure I hold up my end of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make sure we get good sales, you know?
100%.
And then it's like when someone agrees to come out and be on the sales team, it's like, okay, we got to make sure that you make good money. We got to make sure that you're happy to be here, you know, have a good experience, a good lifestyle,
Yeah.
cool stories to tell. You know, I like to mix in that type of stuff. But yeah, it becomes more about like, okay, I do see these responsibilities, you know, like getting the Lambo, needing to get that done, having stress of like, holy shit. You know, there was definitely, dude, I bought that car almost a year ago.
Yeah.
It was in February.
Yeah.
Still it has ran. We just started it
Yeah.
not too long ago. We're waiting for parts to come back from the paint shop, and then we're going to put everything on, right? So it should be done like very, very, very soon. And I've been saying that for a long time, but we're really, really close. But taking on a project like that, taking on a responsibility that's kind of scary, well, guess what I accomplished by doing that? Was it hard? Yes. Did it push me? Yes. But what I had to do was I had to search for a reliable mechanic that I could afford that can take care of a project as complicated as rebuilding a 20-year-old Lamborghini, which I now have. Yeah. I now have that guy, right? I found him. How would you know where that guy is if you don't put him to the test and find him, you know? And so now it's like we have him, we have the relationship, right? We have a track record that's started. So now we can move on to another project. Now we can take on a customer. Now we can expand on that. You know what I mean? And so the same thing kind of just works, I feel like, across life. And I feel like I learned that when I lived out of my van, bro. Because when I lived out of my van, everything was so cheap. I had no responsibilities that it didn't really matter. You know what I mean? But
well, that's, I mean, dude, when you have people depending on you and stuff like that. And the thing is, us, I mean, we had similar upbringings. We've never seen it modeled before either, which is crazy. You know, your dad didn't be like, hey, man, this is how you create a W-2 employee. And this is how you even do, you know, this is how you bring someone on commission and explain them and get them hyped about something that's really hard.
Yeah.
You know, and so that for so many people it's so just disturbing. There's so many guys that just give up their dreams for what, a 9-to-5 salary, and you know, they just kind of stay content with it because they've never seen it done and they just don't want to take the bet on themselves, you know?
Yeah. Dude, that brings me into my next thought, and I know we're gonna keep going. How much time do you got?
No, you're good, dude. I'm here chilling,
But this is kind of a reoccurring thing that I've thought of. is people say that today's day and age, it's so hard to get ahead. Da, 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 da. You hear it all the time. At least I do. I see stuff about it, right? But I'm like, I think more than anything, everything that's keeping people back nowadays, it's not physical. It's not actually how the world and opportunities exist. It's all psychological. It's all stories that people believe about how the world works that keeps them down. It's not literally how the world works, right? All these things of like, most businesses fail. Don't mix business with family. You know, like, I don't even know what else. Curiosity killed the cat, you know, just different things like that, or different life tracks, right? Where it's like college is your blanket solution, right? Yeah. Unless you're going for a specific,
be successful, you know?
Yeah, you won't be successful without it. Instead of being like, well, actually, this is how business works, or this is how the trades works, or this is how, you know, productivity works. This is how taxes work. This is how money works, right? But we actually have the ability to educate on ourselves on all of those things, which most people haven't done. No. Most people have no idea how money works, or what their options are, how to preserve value, or how it adds up over time. Most people just operate on credit cards and don't actually understand compounding long term. Don't understand that you can just basically chat GPT most business plans, and you can start most businesses for dang near free, you know, and like, you can just take a sales job. You can take a job that puts you in a place where you're able to network with people, and you can work on communication skills. And those are the types of things that are going to compound over time. You can't just take a blanket off the shelf strategy of like, okay, college and job. That's not, the world is more complicated and competitive now. People have learned better strategies. So to compete with them, you have to also learn better strategies. You have to take a job that not only pays you well, but gives you time flexibility, puts you in front of high-end people. You know what I mean? It has to be a multi-value stack. It can't just be, it pays the bills, right? It has to be, I'm here working for this business to learn over the next 5 to 10 years. I want to start my own business in this industry. You have to actually think a couple plays ahead, right? Rather than just think that a basic 1-2 step is going to like get you ahead. But then you also shouldn't think that, oh, it's too hard, I don't want to do it then. 100%. If it's going to take 4 or 5 steps, me thinking ahead a little bit, then it's not worth it. Because I say it's worth it. I think it's worth it to try and strategize, plan, make some short-term sacrifice, put yourself in a good position. I think it adds up fast. I think I've seen people, you know, create a lot of freedom for themselves very quickly when it's done with good strategy and good intention and focus. And I think it's completely worth it. I think people think that it takes a lifetime. It realistically takes a couple good years, you know, a couple good years of focus and like intention. And you can put yourself in a position where it's like, okay, cool. Now I'm starting to compound, which ultimately is where I think the only thing matters, right? Everything's either growing or it's decaying. So if you feel like you're anywhere kind of near staying the same, you're probably just assume that you're decaying. Unless you're intentionally pushing yourself for growth and growing, then you're gonna be decaying. So if you could do that across the major pillars of life, with your family, with your health, with your finances, with your education, with your spirituality, and you can just kind of take an inventory on kind of some major key points and just focus on like, am I actually growing in these areas? Am I noticeably growing? Am I intentionally growing? Am I focusing on learning? And you're not just decaying because of paying interest. You're earning interest and you're growing, right? You're learning new ways about how your body works and how you can improve your fitness and better exercises. And you're investing in, you know, maybe some home equipment to make it easier for you to make sure these things are getting done. Or you're getting more books and taking more programs so that you're investing, in education, you're actually pushing and making sure you see that noticeable growth. I just feel like as long as you're maintaining in the growth zone, then the job ultimately is done, because that's all you can really do. As long as you're chilling on the side of growth, then you've kind of arrived in a sense.
100%. Well, and one thing that, I've watched you do as well is I have this phrase that I always have to remind myself is the slowest way to learn is from your own mistakes. And so many times we think, School of Hard Knocks and stuff, but, you've gotten several mentors in different groups and different things. And that's one thing I love about this industry is like the old dogs and stuff like that. They're so willing to share their knowledge, and say, oh, I tried this, or, oh yeah, we tried doing Angie leads, and I think every roofer has spent thousands of dollars on Angie leads.
Not me, bro. Yeah. I learned from the others.
Yeah, you learn from the others. But there's so many things like that. I was just telling my wife, I want to get better at power cleaning. And I could go to the gym and try to do that myself. But there's so many guys that it's like, I looked on KSL and I was like, power cleaning coach. And there's a guy that's like, I was an Olympic lifter. And it's like, dude, he's just willing to do this for...
Yeah.
It was like, what, $20 an hour? I was like,
see what I mean, bro? Dude? That's that next level thinking of like, you're actually good at self-educating and assembling a team. Yeah. That's what it is. You hire a specialist, you hire a coach, you have a specific job that you need to get done, and you're able to like make an assembly there and like put some brains together. That's like, that's what life is all about, and you probably learned so much from him. Did you already do the class?
No, not yet. I just texted him, but it's just, there's so much knowledge out there that it's like, dude, you can't get it out of a book, Like we're just surrounded. How many times my dad would, one of the richest things my dad ever taught me was he's like, dude, there's something you can learn from every single human being. But it's funny, and I was sitting in a line for a gas station. He came up behind me and he's like, if you can learn something from every human being, why aren't you talking to the person in front of you? Everyone, the cashier at the gas station, the lady next to you in Walmart, like there's something that they can teach you, but so many times we're just down on our phone or, just keeping to ourselves. Where like that for me was, I was told so many times in grade school, like, you're never going to be successful. You just won't shut up. And I was a kid in the hallway that was just
good thing you didn't believe that.
Yeah, they were just, I was in the hallway, just whatever. They'd send me out of the class because I was making jokes or whatever. But I'm like, dude, that's like my one superpower.
Yeah.
Is like talking and like getting to know people and talking, where it's like my whole life I thought I was dumb. Like if you were looking at my grades and all that stuff, I tried hard and stuff, but I was like, I just can't stop talking. Mm-hmm. Where now, you go to companies and they're like, that's all we care about.
Yeah.
Like go do that. Just like go to these conferences, go to networking people. And just don't shut up. Just talk and you're gonna say stupid stuff, it's that you still know, but you're gonna go in the right direction. Where so many times we're just sit there quiet and I had to like recreate my pathways that like you learn it. So like I seriously thought that was a bad thing. Like I was like, this is just a bad trait of mine.
Another story that we get told or like we learn, it's just like another thing that psychologically can hold people down when we believe things that just aren't true. Cause man, being able to talk, that's something that I want, like I have to, I guess, intentionally talk to a good amount of people for my job and for everything that we got going on. But I don't spend enough time just socializing or doing basic interaction with just random strangers. I kind of typically just kind of keep to myself and stick to my people rather than mingle with a bunch of strangers. But it's something that I kind of want to do. Like I wish I had that superpower where that was just something that came really natural to me. I think that would be a huge benefit. Yeah. I would honestly love to have that.
Well, it's one of the things I miss about like grade school, junior high school, is we get stuck in these ruts where you only hang out with people that are close to you and think the same as you. Mm-hmm. Where like in high school, you're with a kid who like takes off his shirt for no reason. And like, I feel like the funniest moments happened in high school. Cause it's like, you're with these like kids that like totally different perspectives, maybe even different parts of the world. And you're put into this room with 30 people. And it's like, dude, you guys don't really have anything in common. You don't even have a perspective. Yeah. And that's like, for me, that's where like the richest memories came from. Like, dude, this mother effort just came in and we don't get that anymore. Like everyone in construction's like, oh yeah. I always tell my wife, like, I can pick out a roofer.
Yeah.
You know, they're wearing Carhartt, they got boots on, and they got some truck that's just lifted like a mother effer, dude. I don't know what it is about roofers, but like
That's
more than
awesome.
any trade, they just need a lifted mother effer
Gotta have a
truck.
big truck,
Yeah, big truck.
which I
And,
don't have, but
you know,
Ethan has.
yeah, dude, it's just part of the fit, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. Dude, wow. That's so funny. You know what I was thinking of actually when you were saying that, like, everything about high school that you liked, and just a couple different points throughout this conversation, you really should think about joining the men's group. I just finished it.
Yeah.
It's a two-year program, but bro, I feel like you would crush it, and I feel like you would definitely explode your network. It's a huge help for us.
Oh, I'd love that. When I finished my MBA, I read an article that says you'll have a higher ROI if you join your local country club than if you do an MBA. Because the guys in your country club, they're already established.
Yeah.
You know, you're learning from
You
this.
can just tap in.
I'm just gambling. You know, when you do an MBA, you're hoping that dude next to you that you became friends with becomes successful.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, these are already done. And so, I mean, I need to do better at just, there's so many great, men's groups, just things like that to where, hey, there's a lot of guys, they want to do well. And there's such a synergy. You know, after this conversation, I'm going to drive home and I'll be like, dude, I can do this, Dallas knows this, like there's so many great things that come from this.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, dude, that's funny that you say that as far as the country club. I've had good luck with stuff like that so far with, intentional networking. I just joined another program. This one's ridiculous, bro. Like, I can't believe how much it is and that we're actually sending it and we're doing it and that it's like a really big play, but this guy is specialist. I'm not going to talk about the names until like we get some results and I actually know what it is, because I don't want to promote it too much. We feel good about it, which is why we did it, but we want to see results and we're still so early in it. But it is exciting to feel like, okay, there's even more for us to learn. There's people that, have sold companies for hundreds of millions of dollars that know stuff,
100%.
that know stuff. So it's like, yeah, being able to tap into, more bits of knowledge and intentionally buying it, I guess, so to speak, purchasing that knowledge and access to that information. Not only is it fun, but I feel like it has been the best ROI from an investment standpoint for me.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like having a business operating, like I'd have to look at whatever the return is on that, because I didn't really invest a whole lot to start Happi Roofing. But as far as putting money into something and then, well, I guess education is not quite an investment. You got to take time with it, but you get what I'm saying.
Well, that's the thing is there's so many roofers that, ultimately putting on a roof is not a hard idea to think around, but there's so many roofers that are way more lucrative than other roofers. And it's just small questions. You go to this networking group and you ask a guy who's a multimillionaire, you're like, who's your accountant? And that one accountant that he introduces you to, that doesn't take anything off. That's not any skin off his back. And now that guy's saving you, $100,000. And he's saying, hey, man, if you appreciate it this way as opposed to this way, you're going to make a lot more money.
Now you get $100,000. And over the last year, you've been dialing in, your marketing strategies. And you're like, okay, cool. Like every dollar I put in, I'm getting $4 or $5 back.
Yeah.
And then boom, now you have $100,000.
Yeah.
Now you have $500,000 more of revenue.
Yeah. Or hey, there's this vertical. You have a great thing. It's time for you to build out a maintenance team, where their whole job is just commercial maintenance. So that when I just was working with a roofer, landed the biggest project. I didn't even know this project. There were projects this size. A several thousand square project in roofing, re-roof, And I'm like, how did you freaking do this, dude?
Mm-hmm.
And, and he was like, dude, I just been doing repairs on this project for 3 years. And I'm like, dude, this. And that guy became a millionaire off of that one project.
Damn.
And I remember thinking, I was like, what are you going to do? And he's like, I'm done.
I'm done.
He's like, he's done. Went and bought a house in Hawaii. And he's like, I'm done.
Off to the good life, I guess.
And I was like, dude, that is so... I never would have thought that. But, like, just talking back to different verticals is like, there's so many ways that, we think of asphalt shingles, the most boring thing in the world, But it's like there's so many different ways and different strategies out there to do this where people can just do a little bit of information, especially from those outside industries, and change your whole perspective.
Yeah, dude. It's wild. The world is endless knowledge.
Yeah.
You ever read the Bible?
Of course.
I was reading Proverbs.
Yeah.
And it always talks about, I think there was one, it was like, gaining wisdom is the wisest thing you can do.
Amen, brother. Praise
I
God.
was like, I like it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all about learning those past mistakes. I just taught on Sunday school about the Old Testament. It was the introductory this year is the Old Testament. And it just talks about it's all symbols, symbols about these things mean things that, it's not just a historical book that goes from A to Z through history. Some of them are poems, you got Proverbs. Some of them are songs, and different things. But all of it is just this knowledge of problems that people have faced in the past that they're like warning future generations of, This is cool.
Wow. That's a really cool perspective. Well, dude, I think we'll end on that note. I like it. We can end on a little spiritual
Amen, brother.
little Bible.
Family prayer, dude.
Bible
Family
session. I love it. All right, dog.
Good.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate
Thank you
man.
guys for watching. We'll catch you next time. Peace.